You know what, interestingly, I actually didn't like spoken word or poetry when I was a kid. In school, poetry was taught like Shakespeare and all that type of stuff that I didn't find relatable. But I heard a poet called George the Poet, and when I heard him, it made me realise that poetry could be for the man them as well, and it can be relatable for us who are growing up in London and growing up on like council estates and whatnot. So I started getting into it from there, and I started really seeing the power of it. And I wrote my first poem when I was 25. I didn't even try to write a poem, I just wrote something and it came out. And someone told me, "You're an amazing poet." And I was like, right, okay. I think any young person that's interested in getting into poetry or spoken word, I think the key is just trying it out. Like, a lot of the time when we think about poetry and spoken word, we think about Shakespeare and it's got to be really technical. Poetry is just your thoughts on a page, that's all it is. You're just putting your thoughts on a page and expressing yourself, do you know what I'm saying? About a situation you may have gone through. And a lot of the time, young people that we come across, they think poetry has to rhyme, it has to be this, has to be that. Poetry doesn't have to rhyme. One of the things that we teach young people when we do programs in schools is that we just want you to be your authentic self and just put it on a page. So yeah, Poetry Unity, we're a charity based in Brixton, and we use poetry as a tool to support young people's mental health, education, personal development. And we believe that poetry is a therapeutic tool to help young people find their voice, to bring communities together, and to help young people reach their highest potential in whatever they want to do. So we've been running for nearly 10 years now. We deliver workshops in schools, universities, colleges, prisons, and we work in communities across the country, not just Brixton and South London. You know what's funny? When I write poetry, I write it for myself. I never write poetry for an audience, even though I perform for a living. But when someone does connect to it in a genuine way, I do feel like validated, and I do feel like a real connection with that person. Hence why I started Poetry Unity, because it's all about bringing people together. I think poetry is one of the most personal art forms, you know what I mean, in terms of like sharing. One of the things that's really important to me about poetry is it's not even about sharing it with other people, sometimes just for you. Just writing down how you feel can get that weight off your chest, you know what I mean? Like, get that weight off your shoulders, and you can feel 10 times better just by writing it out on a page. You know, a lot of the time we keep things on our head, and that's what makes all the issues happen, you know? Now, I love coming to Rocking Your Teens because I feel like it's a really important event. It's around International Men's Day, and I think a lot of the time men do get forgotten about. When it comes to mental health, as we know, suicide is the biggest killer of men under the age of 45 in the UK. So it's something that we really need to keep talking about, and that's something that I do in my work with Poetry Unity. And I think I want to keep doing that as much as possible outside of my work with Poetry Unity as well, because I think it's so important to keep these conversations going. And as these boys are growing up, this is the key time for them to be learning and speaking about mental health, because the adolescent time is when you start to really embed who you're going to be as an adult. I think any student that comes to this event, they're going to get inspiration, they're going to learn something new, and I think they're going to look at the people that come on the stage and see themselves, which I think is really important. Do you know what I mean? Like their older self. So I kind of see myself as a big brother to the students that I support. And I think they need that. They need those role models, they need those mentors that are going to show them that you can do things in a different way. You don't have to go the conventional route, you know? I think from my talk, I think the kids have got an idea of how to use poetry as an outlet for their mental health. And also I think they've got an idea that speaking to the man them, their friends, is important. And I hope that from this talk, they will have conversations with their friends and to speak honestly with their guys, because that's the most important relationship, if I'm being honest. Because the guys I grew up with on the council estate in Brixton, like, they're the guys that, they understand me the most because we grew up in the same way. Do you know what I mean? And that's the same with the boys growing up in this school. They have the students around them, these boys around them that are going through the same things as them every day. Their parents are not going through the exact same things, not the same experience. So I think having that peer next to you that understands and goes through the same thing as you, but you being able to talk to each other is a really important thing. So I hope they can take that from today. Yeah, the final message is, man them, let's talk. We have to talk, we have to speak about how we feel. Whoever that is, I'm not saying you've got to speak to everybody, because I'm not saying you should tell everybody how you feel, because that's not necessarily a positive thing either. But you should have at least one or two people you can confide in, whether that's your close friend, whether that's a parent or a family member. I think that's really important. So man them, just talk. And if you can't talk, write down how you feel.